talk about blockchain, mobile, and the future of finance. Hackers and Founders is a strange organization. Hacker in Silicon Valley means engineer who thinks out of the box. It does not mean someone who steals your private data, so just want to make that clear. We started off about 10 years ago having events with nerds in bars. Those events went a little bit viral. They have now been held in about 125 cities around the globe. About 300,000 nerds building startups have attended our events worldwide. And we have been in the middle of this global explosion of tech entrepreneurship. The business that we evolved 5 years ago was helping startups land in Silicon Valley, raise money, scale globally. We've done quite well. And we worked with about 55 startups. We've had 8 acquisitions from our portfolio. Our investors have been doing about 30% month over month. They've actually done quite well. I served on an SEC advisory committee, which is the Department of the United States government, which regulates how we actually invest in technology companies. And so we've actually been doing a lot of work, having talked with thousands of nerds building startups. We've done a lot of work on why it's so hard to raise money for a startup in Peoria, Illinois, in Idaho, in Wisconsin. Essentially, if you're not in Silicon Valley, it's almost impossible for you to actually raise capital for your startup. And it turns out that that same problem actually scales globally. One of the reasons why it's very hard for European startups to raise capital is a lack of acquisitions. And we're actually doing a lot of work with blockchain to actually solve the access to capital outside of Silicon Valley. So the title of my presentation is Blockchain, Mobile, and the Future of Finance. Oh my God, Bitcoin. No, I'm not going to talk about Bitcoin, but I am going to talk just for a few minutes for those of you who actually aren't familiar with blockchain, and that it is actually different from Bitcoin. It's essentially an accounting innovation. One of the first fintech startups in the world were this group of dudes called the Medicis. They actually came up with a couple of fintech innovations. One is they started using Arabic numbers instead of Roman numbers to do math. It turns out that's a fundamental accounting innovation. And then they actually came up with double entry accounting, debits, credits, and that was the birth of essentially modern banking. Fast forward 500 years, there was another fintech and accounting innovation that was actually pretty transformative. Anybody actually ever used PC Calc? Like 1982 spreadsheet? Ah, okay. I'm the oldest geek in the room. But the modern version of that is essentially Excel. Think for yourself the technical innovation of Excel. How much of the world's economy runs on Excel? Trillions and trillions of dollars. Which brings us to one of the most recent accounting innovations that's happened, which is called blockchain. Blockchain is essentially a receipt, just a proof of that an exchange happened. It is a receipt, but it runs on 30 million computers distributed around the globe. The very first use for that, the killer app as it were for blockchain, was, oh my God, Bitcoin. And essentially I can prove that I can essentially give you a Bitcoin. That receipt goes on 30 million computers, and everybody in the world can see this exchange that actually happened. In my mind, that's fine, that's not that interesting. What's interesting to me is the development of smart contracts. We have a receipt that functions on 30 million computers, but now, what if we can actually take a legal document, a contract, and put all of the instructions in computer, in code, and run it on this receipt so that we can prove that a legal contract has been executed? The companies that have actually been working with smart contracts and blockchain in the last 8 years have gone from basically zero to a market cap of about $600 billion. Let that sink in for a little bit. $600 billion in value has been created using the system of receipts. The government of Dubai is putting their entire property registry on the blockchain. What we at Hackers and Founders are using to solve the capitalization problem is we are making digital stock certificates. Essentially, this represents a part ownership of a company. We are doing it to represent ownership in our fund. So we are essentially crowdfunding a fund using digital stock certificates. Our portfolio companies will then be able to issue digital stock certificates. If they need to raise $10 to $20 million, we will do a crypto IPO. I hate the word ICO because that has a lot of negative connotations. Let's actually do a formal IPO process, but using crypto, digital stock certificates, and then let's build a stock exchange using these technologies. I believe that with the combination of blockchain and these three steps, we all of a sudden open up Latin America, Africa, large swaths of the Middle East to private equity and external investment, and startups in Europe will never have to talk to their investors again. When the investor says, what's your exit strategy? Will Google acquire you or will Apple? That will go away with the advent of these technologies. Now we're going to talk about the future of mobile. We've talked about, the talk is blockchain, mobile, and the future of finance. Latin America is a part of the world that we've actually been spending a lot of time in. It's a very interesting market. 110% of the population have access to smartphones with data plans. 40% of the population have bank accounts. 15% of the population have credit cards. Now, what is going to happen when companies using blockchain are going to start to be able to provide financial services to these people via their mobile? They're going to be able to provide banking services. They're going to be able to provide payment services. They're going to be able to provide insurance services. Basically, the next 2 to 4 billion people around the globe are going to start, that are coming into the financial system, are going to start doing it using mobile, and my guess is blockchain infrastructure. If we were to do our fund, for instance, on the public NASDAQ market, it would cost me at least $5 million in legal and accounting, and $3 million a year in maintenance. Using blockchain, me and a small group, in a very small dedicated team, can build a mutual fund that is publicly traded for about $300,000. What happens when entrepreneurs from around the globe can start building banks and insurance products? The reason why I'm actually excited about Vodafone and partnering with them, and I've not gotten paid to actually say any of this, Tomorrow Street is truly one of the world's top startup acceleration programs. And I have talked to at least 100 to 150 other corporates, Unilever, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Google, what have you. The reason why I'm excited about Tomorrow Street is because Vodafone, A, you guys are distributing startups technology around the world, which is amazing. The second is, Vodafone was actually one of the very first companies in the world to come up with a digital payment system. M-Pesa, which now runs 60% of Kenya's economy, was a product that Vodafone actually created for Safaricom. I'm wondering why it hasn't spread to the other 50 some odd countries that Vodafone actually works in. But I believe that you guys in this room are uniquely positioned to actually start thinking about the next 2 to 4 billion customers in this world across emerging markets. How can we actually think about providing financial inclusion, getting them into the banking system, getting them into insurance system? How can we help small businesses around the globe actually provide loans and give loans and credits to them through their mobile? In my mind, this is the future, this is the opportunity, and this is what you guys have in front of you. And I would argue that there are very, very few people and few companies in the world that actually are better positioned to take advantage of this. If you're interested in learning more about what we're doing, happy to talk with you. Sign up on our Telegram channel. I'm Jonathan Nelson. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I tend to be pretty promiscuous on LinkedIn. If you connect with me, I'll basically say, hey, what's up? And that's what I got. Thank you guys very, very much. Have a great day.